Y'all want to have a real, raw, honest, vulnerable conversation about feminine energy? I do. I really do. I've got this like burning desire to almost create something that I would have wanted when I first started on the path. Not like a feminine energy 101 conversation. Like, I want to go deep. I want to go big. I want to be really real. I want to talk about some of the stuff that's taken me like 2 decades to uncover, not just in myself, but in circles and in working with other women, other beings in their feminine, not just women. And I want to go into some of the like spicier, gutsier stuff, like the stuff that it's hard to find books on. It's hard to find podcasts and stuff on. That's what I'd love to do in this conversation. I'd also love to tell you why we want to have this conversation, why you want to listen to this conversation. I value your time. I value my time, and I don't want to waste your time. So here's why. In some of these nittier, grittier places in the feminine, we hold a lot of fucking power, like a lot of power in these aspects, these like less talked about, more judged, demonized aspects of the feminine. And it's just raw, pure feminine love. It's raw, pure feminine magic. It's raw, pure feminine energy. And it's beautiful and it's glorious. And so going into some of these places, it wakes up a lot of life force in us. It wakes up aspects of ourselves, like aspects of self that we maybe didn't know were there. Like maybe you're a Lilith woman and you didn't know it. You know, maybe you're like a Hecate medicine woman, but you didn't know it. So that's one reason to listen to this conversation, to spend the time to have this conversation, to explore like what's here for you specifically. Another reason is that you might be on the feminine reclamation path in some way, shape, or form to some degree, right? And you might have a lot of questions. It might be like confusing. I know there were moments for me, still are, where it's like, oh my gosh, I just wish that someone who is a few steps ahead of me could just give me a couple pointers, right? I wish someone could say to me that this is normal. This is okay. This is part of it. Right? Sometimes we just really, really need that. Like that's the greatest thing to help us take the next step, is to just hear that this is part of it. So that might be what comes through in this conversation for you. The third reason to listen to this conversation is I think it's just going to be fucking fun. I think you're going to leave feeling energized. That's my aim. You're going to leave feeling more alive. You're going to leave feeling more in touch with your own feminine essence, like that joie de vivre in ourselves, that life force essence, and some of the deeper feminine mysteries. That's my aim. So that's why we want to have this conversation. All right. Let me see. Where's our entry point here? I don't know. We got to talk witchy first. Like, I just am really feeling our doorway in is talking about some of the more like witchy aspects of the feminine. Witchy as in magical, mystical aspects held in the feminine. Isn't it interesting that a lot of times that's like what lures us in? We're like, what's behind a new moon ritual? Like, what is that? Like, what is this like creating an altar? There's got to be something to intention setting, aka spell casting, if we want to use a witchy term. There's got to be something. There's something. I feel something here. I feel some kind of more mystical, magical connection to the moon. I feel some kind of more mystical, magical connection. Like the veils are thin, the other side, the unseen. I'm just feeling a little bit into that. And so I think that's our doorway in, is talking about some of these hidden gifts of working in feminine energy, right? You're just working in the reclamation of your own feminine. And part of what wakes up for us is the medicine woman in all of us, that deep, earthy connection. It's part of the feminine. It is part of the feminine path. You might enter the feminine path on a pleasure path, right? Like, I want to wake up to more goddess, radiance, love, joy. Yeah, that's glorious and beautiful and amazing. And that might be the doorway in. And then what starts to happen is you somehow at some point find you're in rhythm with fucking everything. Yeah. And sometimes we don't like it because you realize that you're actually being influenced by the moon. You're actually being influenced by the amount of electromagnetics around your home. You're actually being influenced by other people's moods. We start to really feel into the interconnectedness of the all of everything. Now, it's part of the magic, right? Like, it's part of this intention setting thing we were talking about, or like the medicine woman or the witch, or like the moon's kind of calling us in. And I'm kind of breaking this into like different aspects of the feminine. And we'll just sort of go through these different aspects in rewilding. We talk about 6 of them. There could be 10, there could be 3, there could be 35. We could pick whatever number. But just for simplicity's sake, we just work with 6 because it seems to work thus far. We might change that at some point. Who knows? It's been 9 years though, and it's still been 6 phases. But if I were to feel into like what's hidden in the medicine woman, one is unlocking the energy that's in that aspect of our feminine so we don't go fucking crazy. Yeah. So hidden within the feminine energy, the medicine woman witch line is so much juice. It's so much connection. It's so much psychic capacities. It's so much of the interconnectedness of the all of everything. It's so intuitive. It's women's wisdom, it's sixth sense. It's that deep knowing. And when that line is clogged, or we haven't kind of like reclaimed it, healed, we could say, or just given it room to move through us, it can get locked up and turn into different kinds of mental disorders, different kinds of psychoses. We can, when we have this aspect of self, this medicine woman, this face of the feminine, we all have it. It's out in the world. It's in us. When we have it alive and well, it moves mountains. You know, it really helps us to be so intuitive. It helps us to collect a lot of information from our environment. It helps us to stay in a natural rhythm. It helps us to stay in the most natural rhythm. But you can imagine, kind of some of the more hidden stuff that we don't really talk about is what happens when we don't let that energy flow, right? Well, one, we don't get pregnant. We're not as fertile as we could be because we're out of rhythm. Our bodies are out of sync with Mother Nature, right? We're not connecting in. We're not letting the flow of life force, which we are just innately that. The feminine is just the flow of life force, all of life force moving through her, around her, with her, in others, through others, around and in everything. That's just it, right? That's just the principle. It's a law. It's sacred law. But when we logjam that or deny that, things like we are not fertile, life force doesn't move through us, our radiance, we're dull, we like our shine, we lose our shine, we lose our light, we lose our radiance, our life force, our aliveness, we start to lose it because we've clogged the line. Also, our psychic capacities, our intuitive capacities, we clog that line and it can really jam up our minds. It can really jam things up in our minds. So that's maybe one of the more hidden aspects held in the medicine woman that I would have really liked to have known when I first started walking this path. I would have really liked to have known that before, kind of coming onto the feminine path, that I was really operating from a place of controlling the fact that I was interconnected to the all of everything. I was trying to control the amount of life force that moved through me. I was trying to dim it down, and thus I was dimming down my own life force. I was trying not to be so intuitive because I could read the room. I could read minds. I could read emotions. I could read all of these things. And so I was really trying to shut it down. Meanwhile, that was just wisdom, energy. It was just wisdom. It was like, well, why wouldn't I take in all of that? But I didn't know how to process all of that. So until I started working with medicine woman energy, until I started working with the archetypes held in the medicine woman, like Hecate, beautiful, amazing energy, right? Archetypal embodiment is something I very, very strongly recommend around any of these faces of the feminine. But this can really help. This can really shift things. So it goes from it almost being a curse, like I feel so cursed because I'm so psychic. I feel so cursed because I'm so connected to the all of everything. Like, this is a curse. It's such a burden. And then it shifts into being a gift. You actually learn how to work with it. You learn how to take in all of that information, all of the intuitive information from the interconnectedness of the all of everything. You learn how to let that much life force move through. You learn how to be moved by it, right? From the discernment place of in the highest good, like in your highest path good. You're moved by the fact that you are interconnected to the all of everything and that much juice runs through you. Pretty good, right? Yeah. Wish someone would have fucking told me that 20 years ago. All right, let's move on. I could talk about these forever. But this is a podcast, so I need to make sure that I kind of keep myself on track here. All right, let's see. Where to next? I think we need to talk about longing. So if we were to move into the next face of the feminine, be the lover. For this particular conversation, they're not in any order. But if we were to feel into the lover and we were to feel into some of the more hidden mysteries and some of the things that I see people go like, oh my God, I didn't know that was there. This is terrible. I just wanted the pleasure of the lover. I just wanted the orgasms of working with this feminine energy, right? And it's, maybe feminine energy like Venus, right? That's an archetypal energy that holds, right? This lover energy, goddess of love, that's Venus, goddess of love and beauty. And some of the other archetypal energies like Lalita holds that, Parvati holds some of that, Hygeia holds some of that. Like these really radiant archetypal energies, or just start to feel that in yourself. It's a lot of like the pleasure, the feminine pleasure type work that's out there, or offerings or books or conversations around, reclaim your radiance, reclaim your pleasure, reclaim your joy. That sits in the lover. It sits in the lover aspect of the feminine, right? Again, of the 6 faces of the feminine, it's one face. It's an aspect of the feminine. So here's the part where I want to get a little deeper. I want to talk about what we don't necessarily talk about. And it's working the lover long enough. And there's 2 things here that are going to arise. One is that you're going to realize that the more pleasure you start to feel, you also open up the other side of that same spectrum. It's like a line, like we could call it the pain-pleasure line, right? And it's on the same vertical, horizontal, we'll call it a horizontal axis. It's on the same axis. If we start to be able to feel more pleasure, more orgasmic energy, more joy, more bliss, we also feel more of all the other things. This would have been really good information to know when I first started my path. I wish someone would have said, Sabrina, along with these increased capacities for orgasm, are going to be increased capacity for tears, right? Along with increased capacity for pleasure comes increased capacity for grief, for rage, for you name it. And I know that there will be some who will listen to this and go, that's bullshit. I'm in. I'm with you. Go for it, right? Like you try to just stay in the pleasure, right? I did that. And if you can stay in that consistently for like 10 years and you're really walking an awakening embodied path and it's genuine, like I want genuine joy, genuine, not this like surface level, false feminine, fake pleasure shit, right? I want like deep from the guts of you, every cell of your being is in pleasure. That's feminine magic. That's the feminine embodiment. That's what we're talking about here, right? Authentic, real, not the picture on Instagram where you're fucking smiling in a bikini and skirt or something in Bali, right? Where you're just like, looks good, right? But deep down, you're dying inside, right? It's like the whole system congruency, right? Like there's a congruency throughout your whole system, and the whole system is just pleasure. That's the kind of pleasure I'm talking about. If you can sustain that for like 10 years solidly, then we should have a conversation, and then you can poke a hole in this fact. This fact. I'm going to call it fact. I was a scientist for a very, very long time, right? Yeah. Then I found the spiritual path. then I found this. But so we'll call it a theory. Right? And until this theory is proven wrong, this is the theory that I know in myself, and I have not yet seen a human being from the thousands and thousands and thousands that I walk this path with, that I get to witness them on their feminine awakening path. There is not one that I have seen that gets to open up to more pleasure without opening up to more grief or more pain or more whatever. It's just the way that it is. But here's the secret. Here's the good stuff. This is the good stuff. You ready for it? At some point, you walk this path long enough, you don't even give a shit. That sounds crazy, right? I told you, I'm giving you like the good stuff. I'm giving you the stuff that took me like 20 years to figure out. I'm giving you the stuff that I would want my younger self to have. Like, hey man, it's going to be all good. Like, yep, it's going to be really weird there for a while, but you're going to get to a point where every emotion is just energy moving through you. Every emotion has a wisdom to it. Every emotion, it's just life moving through you. It's just life. It's like being a tree and the wind is blowing and you're like, oh, it's the wind. And then it's raining and you're like, yes, it's the rain. And then it's sunny and you're like, yes, it's the sun. It's kind of how it gets to be. We don't have this attachment to it having to be a certain element, you know, like the rain, the wind, the sun. And if we just think about emotions as an element, we don't have an attachment to it. So therefore, guess what happens? Therefore, wait for it, it's all pleasurable. It's all enjoyable. It's all amazing. It's all beautiful. It's just life expressing itself through you. Like truly, authentically in that moment. And it is fulfilling as fuck. Whether it be rage, or it be deep grief, or it be heights of ecstasy and pleasure. Now that's some feminine mystical shit, y'all. But if I can make it to those places, and I'll tell you what, there are still some days where I'm like, damn, this has been a lot of crying. It's been a lot of crying. Like, we could get a little sunshine up in here. That'd be great. But really and truly, it's what I've observed happening in myself and have gotten to witness in many others, where there isn't an attachment to it, and it's all fulfilling. It's all enjoyable. And it's just is. And yeah, I'll stop there. I promised I was going to try to keep us on track in this. It's hard to keep on track when we're in so much feminine energy. The other aspect, I'll actually go into this with the feminine mystic. So that was the lover, let's just say. We could go into this next one through the lover for sure. Probably the best doorway would be in through the lover. But I'm going to go in through the doorway of the mystic just to get us another face of the feminine in here, because I'm already at 20 minutes and I don't want to talk to you for like 20 days, which I very much could. But let's go in through the doorway of the mystic. So third face of the feminine, right? We've got medicine woman, we've got lover, now we've got the mystic. So if we were to feel into the feminine mystic, she holds some of the like heights of the mystery, like the highest mysteries, the deepest mysteries, the most hidden mysteries, right? She is the mystic. She's the mystic. But feminine mystic, it's like an embodied mysticism, right? It's like an embodied mysticism. It's not a disassociated mystic. It's not an out there mysticism. It's like the feminine mystic, the feminine mystic is like, it's heaven on earth, you know, like, the divine is right here. The mysteries are right here. The sacred is in my body. The sacred is right. It's right here. It's here. It's not other than, it's not outside of, it's here. That's an aspect of the feminine mystic. And I could go into like, I don't know, 20,000 other aspects of the feminine mystic. But here's a really, this is a deep one. This one very recently came online. Like I would say 2 years ago, I uncovered this one, and I'm sure it's somewhere out in the world. Like I'm sure rewilding is not the only place that's uncovering this and stepping into this, but I just haven't seen it. But if we go deep into the feminine, and deep into feminine longing. Now, most people don't even ever touch into feminine longing, but it's there. And you walk this path long enough and you will hit feminine longing, and it's a motherfucker. Let's not sugarcoat this in any way, shape, or form. It is a motherfucker. It is the deepest feminine pain that you will ever experience. It is the core of the core of the core of the core of feminine. It's not a wound. It's not a wound. It's the feminine creates from that place. But imagine the feminine power and the feminine creating from that place is a place of your deepest, most insatiable longing. No human really wants to walk into that place. You know, mostly if someone said like, you're gonna have to feel the most insatiable, horrific, painful fucking longing. And that's where you're gonna access your power. That's where you're going to access feminine magnetism. Everyone wants to do feminine magnetism. No one wants to access the depth and the pain held within feminine longing. But that's where the juice is at. It's where the magic's at. It's where the power's at. Is in that like deep, like I'm longing to be met. I am dying to be filled. I am dying to be filled. I'm dying for someone to meet me. I'm dying for someone to see me at this deep of depths. I'm dying for someone to pierce my heart deeply. I'm dying. I am dying for this. It is so hard to live with that I have put shells around it. I have put safety mechanisms in place. I have put trapdoors in place. I have put layers and layers and layers of grief and rage and all kinds of things on top of this place because it is so fucking vulnerable. It is so horrifically, painfully vulnerable. This deep fucking longing. And it's a deep longing for love. It is a deep longing for love, and it's typically a deep longing for love through another human being. Yeah, that's why we watch a lot of romance movies. It's why we just can't really get enough of those stories, right? So on a surface level, it manifests in that way. We like dream about the wedding. We, plan the wedding and the yada 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 yada. It comes from this deep place of just longing. And then when it's not met, right? When it's not met, we bury it and we cover it up and we pretend like it's not there and we stuff it down, but there's juice there. You literally, here's what we started covering in rewilding 2 years ago, is you literally start to access the capacity to work with creation energy through your longing. The raw, sacred energy, creation energy, like creation energy that creates. That is a doorway. I'm not saying it's the only doorway, but through that deep feminine longing, right? It pulls in creation energy. It is directly connected to creation energy. So you want to talk about magnetizing things in, or the alluring things in, attracting things in, the law of attraction, and what's the other word that I wanted to say? Manifesting, right? Like manifesting something. Go here. Walk that path. Get that armoring off this place, cry those tears, let yourself feel all the things, the layers, it's layers, right? Layer, deeper, into just the raw, and you to be able to stand heart open. It's like you feel splayed open, right? And maybe you're even in front of your lover. I'm just giving you like the most recent example from my life that I can think of. It's legit that of like, what were my words, Sam? I don't even remember, but it was from this place of like, I will, from the deepest, truest, most vulnerable place, I will reveal the pain that I feel in not being met. Like I will reveal the hurt, with zero spite, zero anything else other than, this is just longing to be loved. Like this part of me is like you see the tears start happening in me, like longing to be met, seen, loved, touched, longing, if you want to talk in tantric terms, or in like divine masculine, divine feminine terms, it's like longing for consciousness to penetrate into that depth of being, right? It's longing for love in the form of consciousness, and consciousness doesn't have to come through a man. I'm not talking the divine masculine through a man. It can be through anybody, anything really. And that place, that is one of the deepest feminine mysteries that I don't see being talked about. I don't see it being embodied. I don't see it being being revealed. That feminine power of love, right? It is so powerful. Yeah. Whoo-wee. Okay, let me reel it back in. Before I take us into 2 days of working on longing and how we can all access that. By the way, if you want to access some of this, just check out links below. I don't know what will be available or open at the time that you're watching this, but sometimes we have free challenges going on. Sometimes we have master classes that can take you into this. Those are free too. Sometimes there's like certain workshops that we might be promoting that can help with all of this. But just know in the description, we'll put some supportive resources that can, if any of this is like, oh, something's resonating here, or I want to learn something more, there's always free stuff there. There's always deeper dive stuff there. There's always whatever. Just know that if you're like, how, what, I feel it, want to do it, where, description, look at the links and see what calls to you. All right, let's keep going. So, let's, I think we need to move into the dark goddess territory. So we've talked medicine woman, we've talked lover, we've talked mystic. Dark goddess territory. There's so many facets. There's so many facets to all of them. But if we were to feel into some of the less talked about mysteries and more hidden nitty gritty in the dark goddess, what is it that wants to come out today? Oh man, is how twisted we are around the feminine and we don't know it. How much we judge our own feminine and we don't know it. How much we devalue her and we don't know it, right? Like we value our intellect over our intuition. We value masculine doing over feminine essence, feminine being, feminine energy radiating. We value spirit over soul. We value, I don't know, I'm just giving you lots of different things to feel into. But working in the dark goddess territory, I wish someone would have told me at the start of my path, Sabrina, you're going to have to face some really, really painful things. You're going to have to face some painful things about your family system that you absorbed. You're going to have to face some painful things about past life when you denied feminine power. What happened when you stepped into feminine power? This goes into like witch wound, like witch wound and what we believe deep down. I mean, this is shadow territory. This is unconscious hidden shit, but it's affecting our lives in big ways, big ways. You're going to have to look at all the ways that you deny your feminine magic because you're doing it. If you weren't denying your feminine magic, you'd have a lot of feminine magic. If you weren't denying it in some way, repressing it in some way, oppressing it, shaming it, judging it, your own feminine, Sabrina, like your own radiance, your own beauty, your own intuition, your own longing magic, your own, all of the things. If you weren't repressing that or oppressing that in some way, it would be so free to be expressing itself right now. It would be so free to express itself right now. Those gifts, they would be flowing. Your intuition would be bang, spot on. Your radiance, your glow, it would all be there. If we weren't repressing, oppressing, judging in some way, this beautiful, magnificent feminine energy that runs through all of us, right? It runs through all of us. So I also want to say how we judge it outside of ourselves. So what I've seen is just the amount of feminine energy and the flavors of feminine energy, the faces, the amount of the faces, and like the unique combinations of feminine energy that runs through all of us is so perfectly, pristinely, gloriously created, uniquely to each of us. And so the degree to which I will maybe embody feminine energy versus the degree to which I dance with it will be so different to yours, right? And so for some of us, it's that we aren't necessarily like wired or called for this. It's not like in our soul journey blueprint in this lifetime to just embrace and embody so much feminine energy. But what we are called to do is come into right relationship with it in another or in the world. And so where do we deny, oppress, repress it? In our loved ones, in our world, in our homes, in our life, right? Where do we devalue that? And we do it a lot. Our whole world does it a lot. In such subtle ways that we don't know, we don't even know all the ways. Every television show has things that add to that. Our commercials have things that add to that. The ways that we talk to each other add to that, just the way that you call like a weak man a pussy, and that actually relates to a feminine body part. Isn't that interesting? Things like that, right? And like, babies are born from there. I'm not really sure that I would exactly call that weak. I don't know. But you can see how it's been like derogatory or degrading. And when we go into this, really go into it, right? It's scary how much we see about how we think about it. Like the blood mysteries. What are our judgments for those of us who are in woman bodies? What are our judgments around that? What the fuck? That is a natural, beautiful, glorious thing that creates life. This is amazing. But we pretend it's not there. We judge it. We shame it. That's just one example, right? And there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands. And so when we walk this feminine path, this is some of the nitty gritty that I wish someone would have told me. Sabrina, you're going to see a lot of stuff. You're going to see a lot of ways. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt how you've judged, how you've been judged, how the world judges, and how it really still works to keep it hidden. Okay, that's Dark Goddess. All right, let's keep going here. So, medicine woman, lover, mystic, dark goddess. Let's go into the warrior. Now, if someone were to tell me about the feminine warrior and the nitty gritty around the feminine warrior, it would be around purpose. And the way that we're so told about purpose is oftentimes in a very masculine way. I remember the first time I really leaned into like feminine warrior, and it was like, what would you die for? And then someone spun it around so beautifully in a retreat recently, a rewilding retreat here in California. And she spun around and she said, instead of like, what would you die for? What would you live for? What would you fight to live for? What do you live for? And the feminine aspect of it, the nitty gritty of it, is that purpose around what do you want to do and accomplish in this life is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the feminine warrior. Like, what do we live for? What do we fight for? What do we die for? And it's, how do I want to live and express love in this life? How does love want to live through me? What is it that most fills that love longing? What relationship do I have children? What does my community look like that most fills my heart longing? This deep longing to give and receive love, this deep longing to support the flow of love. What does life look like to support the flow of love? Like, what is it that I must? This is feminine purpose. It's feminine warrior. What is it that I must? I must create. I must call in, right? That feminine longing, that feminine magnetism, you call it in. What is it that I must call in to feel full? Feminine purpose is about feeling full. Masculine purpose is about feeling empty, right? I've given everything. I've given my gift. I feel empty. I'm at peace. I'm emptied out, right? I'm empty. Feminine fulfillment is full. Feminine purpose is full. What is it that I must create, do, experience, express? How must love flow so that I feel full? I wish someone would have told me that, because I was certainly on a very masculine purpose. What is your purpose in life? You know, like all of that stuff. And that whole path for me anyways was very masculine based from the very start. And then the final face of the feminine, the mother. Sometimes we think mother so simple. We're like, what could be the nitty gritty with the mother? Let me feel for it. I mean, mother's our capacity to birth in this world, right? And what I wish someone would have told me at the start, like the nitty gritty, like, Sabrina, you're on this feminine awakening path. You're on a feminine reclamation path. Guess what? Inner child stuff's going to come up. Mother wound stuff is going to come up. Your thoughts around mothering, how you are a mother to whatever it is that you're mothering in the world, whether you're an anti-mother, because we all got it. Like we've all been touched by the mother. It's like a feminine archetypal energy that we never got to get away with. None of us got to get away from this one, right? We were mothered by people. We do mother things. And let me feel about the nitty gritty. Like, what are some of the things that we might not talk about? Over-mothering is really coming to mind. Over-mothering and under-mothering, in the reclamation of the feminine. And it's not children that I'm even talking about necessarily. Of course that, but how do you over-mother your work? How do you over-mother your partner? How do you over-mother your animals? how do you undermother? Undermother? And how do you self-sacrifice to take care of? I hear this one so gosh darn much, right? Is just this like self-care. I need to focus on self-care. I need to take more care of myself. I think one of the things, I'm going to kind of get off the mother track, this will just be our doorway into this, is that the feminine is a path of being filled by giving. Yeah. It's that the giving, I feed the child, I'm just giving us a metaphor. I feed the child from my breasts, but that is so fulfilling to me when I have a healthy, reclaimed feminine. When I do not, this is hard truth to hear. And you might fight this one too, and that's fine. I fought it too for a good long time. But you tell me if you can maintain this solidly, right? Like the same thing I said about the pleasure principle, it's on the same line as the pain principle. This is another one of those deep truths that we just don't want to fucking hear. The feminine, she loves loving. She loves giving. She loves giving. She must give the love. She must give the love. And when it's healthy, the giving is the receiving, right? The nourishing of the child, like just being there holding her child breastfeeding is so fucking fulfilling. There's nothing else that she needs. When that healthy relationship is opened up, when we've done that feminine reclamation work, right? And so let's talk about it outside of breastfeeding our children, because it's way, way, way beyond that. But if you are in a women's circle or you're working in feminine energy, it doesn't have to be women, but you're working in feminine energy, there is just this this just flows. The love just flows, right? It just flows. And then what I see is that there's this unhealthy relationship where we think we're not taking care of ourselves because we're taking care of other, or we're letting the love flow. But here's the thing. It's because we're not open to receiving it. That's the problem. And it's on us. It's not that it's not that everyone else is taking from us. It's not that. It's not that you're overgiving. You actually have an inability to receive. You have an inability to receive when you're giving. You have an inability to receive when you're not giving from the outside world. This is one of the greatest things that we can work on in the feminine path, right? Is our capacity to receive. We complain that we're not being given enough love. We're not being given enough care. We're not being given enough nourishment. We're not being given enough time. Yada, 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 yada. It's our inability to receive, and part of our inability to receive is also our inability to even know what we need. Maybe we do know what we need, but our inability to speak what we need, speak what it is. Like, I know I catch myself with my partner a lot, like a lot, where I'm trying to find the right words for this. It's like, he doesn't really care what the flavor of love is that moves through him into me. Doesn't care if it's a flavor of love, like a hug, flavor of love, taking me to watch a concert in the park, which we just did today, whether it's a flavor of love, buying me lunch, flavor of love, of sexual orgasms. I'm literally telling you my lunch date, right? Doesn't really care. Doesn't care. Like, that's the masculine not caring part. Remember, I was saying the feminine not caring part, like that's the masculine not caring part at that high level. Just don't care what the flavor is. But one, I have to be able to receive that, right? I have to be able to receive the having lunch bought for me, him being in the park, the orgasms, the, whatever, all the things. But also to be so honest and true and real, like, and to really reveal what it is that lights me up, reveal what it is that I'm longing, there we go again, longing for, what it is, and then not to just reveal it, but then when it's being given, we have to receive it. And that can be the hardest part. That can be the hardest part because we're stuck in like a pattern of not worthy, or stuck in a pattern of not able to receive, or whatever, wherever that stems from. Yeah. Whoo-wee! This was a fun conversation. It was, I could, again, like I said, I could do this for days and days and days and days and days. We're always doing rewilding retreats. There's in-person events if some of this stuff really sinks to you and you do want to do days and days and days and days. So that's probably why I'm thinking of that. That's like the way to do days and days and days and days. But there's also just other ways to journey into this territory, and you'll find all the links below. Would love to hear from you in the comments. I'm always there in the comments. The rewilding team is also always there in the comments. It's just beautiful to be here with you all and to connect with you and to have these conversations. Let me know if this served. Like, let me know. This is a little bit, it's like going back to our roots, right? Rewilding for Women's roots. This is kind of what we were founded on, was these feminine mysteries. And we've gone into many, 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 many other places from this kind of like founding grassroots sort of foundations of rewilding. So let me know if you want to hear more, and if there is something specific, like one of the faces you'd like to hear more of, or talk more about longing or feminine magnetism, or I don't know. It would be beautiful to hear from you in the comments. All right. So much love to you. I will see you when I see you, where I see you, and how I see you.